Combat is universal. It's a language all living things understand. Just how much of our forefathers' experiences were rooted in warfare, the ability to command soldiers, to take lives, and the philosophies that were in place to justify such violence in the first place, the local skirmishes that bloodied the land, the rigors of training our ancestors were exposed to. What did they value? What were their ideals? Ideals that were so powerful they moved men and women to shape and change the very world we live in forever, spurring the formation of the world's first empires 2,000 years ago, the Akkadian Empire ruled by Sargon of Akkad. For conquest, defense, or entertainment, men and women have fought. As individuals or in armies, from time immemorial, humans have fought. But why? To understand this, it may be beneficial to look at empires and their relationship with war. In his book, Sapiens, Yuval Noah Harari describes an empire as a political state which is primarily driven by expansion. This expansion is often fueled by multiple factors. There's religious growth, such as the Christian missions going to Africa from Britain. We have the scientific discovery route. The British commissioned James Cook to sail from Britain to America, observing the path of Venus in the night sky in 1972. Many more expeditions would follow, further cementing this union of science and empire. But make no mistake, for science and empire to flourish, they need a vehicle to travel on. And generally, this vehicle is war. War to expand, war to conquer, and war to defend. This is where kingdoms differ from empires. A kingdom is content with what it has. Defending its borders or attacking its enemies, that's usually it. An empire, though, is a different beast. Empires are concerned with the business of expansion, covering and conquering vast territories and diverse peoples. In the last 3 centuries, we've seen the Dutch, we've seen the French, and we've seen the English colonial empires, each with their own missions, all wanting to establish trade dominance, improve their economies, establish military superiority, further science, or spread their religions. In the last 300 years, each empire has left its indelible mark on our collective human history, from the establishment of the first educational institutions and schools, to slavery and the exploitation of the vulnerable, from the introduction of free trade and capitalism to the robbery and abuse of natural resources. For good and for bad, the list goes on. Fast forward to now, and it's the year 2023. Are there still empires? Yeah, but no at the same time, not really. We have countries, continents, sea and air routes, but no more hard stuck empires the way we did 300 years ago. What about war? Is there still war? Yes, countries still fight, but you could argue that this is the most peaceful and prosperous era of humanity that we've ever recorded. For sickness, we have medicine. For money, we have banks. For war, well, we have war. That's still the same. Or is it? I think it's changed a lot because we're a lot more closely knit and tied together than we ever have been in our recorded past. In any given day, I speak British, I dress American, eat Chinese food, and sleep in a bed made by my Nigerian carpenter next door. As such, the incentives to go to war start to fall apart under the shared weight of our interconnectedness. The emergence of the internet further disincentivizes war. Even the most underdeveloped countries boast some measure of internet penetration. We're all consuming, sharing, networking on our mobile phones, interconnected, expanding. Slowly but surely, we're growing, not unlike an empire. One could argue that we are unknowingly part of the world's first emerging global empire. We now value persuasion and dialogue, education and sophistication, work experience, and the ability to use a computer. These things predicate success today. These are what define the modern man. We have, for the most part, become more peaceful, and as a result, physical strength is a secondary consideration when we consider what matters to us today. I, for one, am deeply grateful to be born in this epoch. There have been way harder times to be alive. I believe that the body is the mouth of the spirit. As such, the body manifests the desires of a person's soul. Some people dance, some people climb mountains, some surf the seas, some solve physics equations, and some others engage in combat willingly, uncoerced. This is all they want, to overcome themselves and rise to the occasion of violence, to break another man's will and to be pronounced the victor. Is there still a place for the modern gladiator in today's world? With our suits and our laptops, can we still be warriors? Can we still fight? Thankfully, the answer is yes. Francis Ngannou, Israel Adesanya, Kamaru Usman, Kennedy Nzechukwu, Sodiq Yusuf, Anthony Joshua. For lovers of combat, these are hallowed names, future and former champions of the world, future Hall of Famers, the stuff of legend. That's what these men are to us. Mixed martial arts, boxing, Muay Thai, regardless of the sport, Africans compete at the highest levels. In a continent with so many challenges, so many failures, so many embarrassments, these men and these women represent something immortal. They represent hope. Hope that anyone from anywhere can be something. Anyone can be bigger than the limitations set by their environment. We have them on our t-shirts, on our walls, on our TVs, on our phones, in our conversations. They are our modern day heroes. On some abstract level, I think it's fitting that fighting would be the outlet of choice for many Africans. In many ways, the biggest fight is life itself, and few people have as much to overcome day to day as Africans. The emergence of African talent globally has also led to a growth of all things combat on the local scene. MMA and boxing gyms now dart the landscape of Abuja. Anyone can get quality training as long as they're interested. Viewers can turn on their TVs from anywhere in Africa and watch the African Knockout, Nigeria's biggest fight promotion, showcasing MMA talent from the continent routinely. Pugilistic protagonists shadowbox in Jabi Lake on Saturday mornings. If you pick up your phone, there's a dozen African combat sports podcasts there to capture your attention with highlights, with news, and with gossip. It feels like combat is everywhere, actually ubiquitous, probably only comparable to football in the 90s in my lifetime. I've never seen anything grow, just sprout out like it. But if we were to take it one step deeper, to the source, to the layer of culture, What is Africa's combat culture? What is our style of combat? How did our forefathers choose to express themselves? Pugilistically, of course. Did we have arenas? What the rhythms did the drummers play to entice the curiosities of the people and arouse the spirit of the combatants? What religious practices accompanied such a spectacle? How did fighters train? How did the women fight? Did the elders watch? How did the kids conduct themselves? Question after question after question I ask myself. Some of these answers are forever lost to history, but some are available from the stories of Isle. For some answers to these questions, one may look at Dambe, a style of boxing incorporating kicks outside of northern Nigeria. Dambe is centuries old, with a rich storied history. Dambe is one of Nigeria's arts of war, one of our local martial arts, the art of the spear and the art of the shield, and it is making a resurgence in the public zeitgeist. It's really hard to describe the energy at a Dambe event. The drums, the fighters with their one-handed raps, the ebb and the flow of combat, perfectly captured by the cheers of excited onlookers. The intensity and the spectacle feels like the fulfillment of some ancient spiritual rite, one that cleanses the souls of the combatants through blood. The spear is the rear hand. Orthodox fighters will typically have this on the right hand. Its job is to deliver swift and powerful strikes to incapacitate the opponent. The shield is the lead hand. Its duty is to protect the body and the face from incoming damage. The entire body is held in one low stance with a steady back and forth sway to mask deadly intention. To the untrained eye, the intricacies of each round will be missed. But astute observers understand that Dambe has its own share of feints, of strikes, footwork patterns, uniquely developed for this particular brand of combat. Dambe is a byproduct of a culture and legacy that goes back hundreds of years, only coming into the public's notice with the rise of social media. It is ancient, yet it is novel. There are no big screens, no jumbotrons, no arenas or stadiums. Just two men in a pit of sand. One winner, one loser. Typically by way of KO. There are no Western influences, no athletic commissions. It feels pure, it feels sacred, untouched by the excesses of our consumerist culture. As entertaining as any UFC event, as captivating as any boxing storyline. Dambe is an expression of a people's culture, unlike anything else, and it has been entertaining multitudes for centuries. But what if someone was intentional enough to try and colonize the world as the British did all those years ago? A colonization rooted in competition and sport, taking an African product, an African sport, to a worldwide audience and market. A reverse of the norm that we're used to. That would be where the African Warriors Fighting Championship comes in. It is Nigeria's foremost promotion, dedicated solely to the sport of Dambe. Their shows are raw and authentic, with a deep reverence for the customs that inspire them. Microphones blaring loudly in Hausa, drummers causing trance-like gyrations in the crowd, sand thrown high in the air every time the fighters trade strikes in the pits. For the fighters, the rules are simple. 3 sets of 3-minute rounds, with 1 minute rest in between. A knockdown counts as a victory. Punches and kicks are allowed. The spear hand is wrapped in thick layers of rope, with charms and spiritual aids carefully inlaid to give the competitor an unnatural spiritual edge, adding to the mystique and to the allure of the show. One thing is certain for everyone that watches it for the first time: nothing like Dambe exists anywhere else in the world. Both men circle, their feet throwing up orange sand that is weirdly beautiful in the violent scene taking shape. They are intently watching each other. The drums in the background have settled down into a steady rhythm. The crowd is silent, anticipating. as much in the fight as the smooth, agile men they've come to watch. Not a word is uttered, just the shared feeling that something magical is about to happen. Both men mirror each other, spear to the side, rhythmically alternating from hip to torso, gently swaying back and forth. Lead leg pointing in the direction of the opponent, rear foot low and cocked, ready to explode. The Dambe stance is agile and steady in the lower body, but heavy and explosive in the torso. This KO heavy style of fighting emphasizes quick and decisive strikes, relying on the spear. It is an offense-only weapon. The Dambe boxer must simultaneously mix offense and defense by moving his head in line with the feet and the shield. The shield is held vertically in the way of the opponent, with the palms facing inward and the fingers tightly upright. A shield to protect, a spear to destroy. The MC is screaming words which cannot be understood, but can be felt deep in one's being, in one's consciousness. Primal screams decorated with Hausa, encouraging combat, urging the crowd. Onlookers begin to stand up in response, knowing that in a second or two, this fight could all be over. The fighters look magnificent, both of them resplendent, chiseled out of smooth bronze muscle, confident in their preparation, scars lining their eyes and chest, seasoned veterans in this Nigerian art of war. Proud products of their Dambe houses. A Gidan Dambe is a house for Dambe training. Not unlike the boxing and MMA gyms of the West, the coaches stand just outside of the pits, screaming instructions. The distance between both men gradually diminishes as they slowly inch towards each other. The space reduces till their spears are within striking distance. The drumming in the background reaches a higher pitch, anticipation still building. As if unable to bear the tension anymore, the older man, more muscular, more rigid, moves first. His lead ankle begins the offense by rotating in the orange sand, transferring force to his knees and to his quads. Centrifugal force transferred from the ground into the torso, spear hand at the ready, absorbing all that rotational energy from the feet and converting it into a lethal payload. The form employed is similar to that in use when throwing an overhand right in traditional boxing. His opponent lifts his shield to block. He is only half successful at the force from the strike, causing his own hand to collide with his head after partially blocking the strike. Almost immediately, the drums grow in pitch. The MC screams like every other member of the crowd in attendance before settling into a new set of indiscernible pronouncements to the hearing of both fighters. Barely anyone is sitting in the crowd at this point. The violence has begun. This is what brought us here. The man who landed the strike has a red band around his spear, tied over his glove of rope. His face is cold, unfeeling, but his body betrays his intentions as it slowly moves, almost of its own accord, towards his opponent, who is now bleeding from his left eye. The opponent is a younger man. He has a blue band on his spear. The blood dripping down his eyes seemed to not faze him. Rather than retreat, he sinks lower into the ground. This is the end, the final salvo, the final exchange. He knows it. The crowd suspects it. The next exchange will be the last. Everyone is on their feet at this point. An arena of 500 plus people, mobile phones recording, drummers gyrating, MC screaming, all attention on the men laying it all on the line for their entertainment. This time, the younger man in blue is the one to break rhythm. He takes the offense, feinting with his shield. He steps to his left. His opponent, biting on the feint, moves backwards to avoid damage, instantly aligning his spear to the direction of his opponent. But something is off. The feint wasn't meant to create an opening for damage. It was intended to create an angle, a distraction, just enough space to the opponent's right, just out of the way of the defender's shield. With a subtle step, he had created a big enough angle for his strike to have clear, unimpeded access to his opponent's temple. The opponent, a seasoned warrior, saw through the trick, but he realized the misdirection too late. Before he could get his shield up, the crowd heard it. Blood and sand danced to the tunes of drums, men and women screaming with reckless abandon. The impact causes his opponent to fall backwards to the warm embrace of the sand in the pit. Just like that, it was over. He was unconscious before he hit the sand. His corner men ran towards him. The sound in the arena is now deafening. No one can hear a thing. A mixture of drums, cheers, screams, and loud prompts from the MC's microphone. The man in blue is the victor. His spear held up high, defiant. He is victorious. I think it's important to tell stories. I think it's also important to celebrate victories, no matter how big or small they may be. I'm so used to seeing the youth and seeing the people of this beautiful country suffer, usually for no explainable reason. And if I can ever tell the story of someone or something that is attempting to elevate the plight or to take a Nigerian art form to the world for the benefit of Nigerians, then I think it's only fair that I just lend my voice to assist them. I am thinking about this partnership between the African Warriors Fighting Championship and Stake.com, and I hope that it leads to these fighters being taken care of. I hope it leads to health insurance. I hope it leads to proper training, proper recovery, to proper everything. I just hope that it elevates the plight of all these people. It takes this thing from a pastime to a legitimate career. And I think that's it. Thank you for sticking to the end of the video. Like, share, subscribe. This has been Combat Culture, produced by the Nigerian Nerd. See you guys again next time.